It's time now for the district breakdown. We welcome in Inside High School Sports Insider Matt Harris to break down District 22-6A more in depth. Matt?
Thanks, Ashley. This week, we're covering District 22-6A, and every team will get a little boost from the departure of Atascocita over to District 21. Atascocita beat every team in this year's 22-6A by at least 47 points last season, which means this district could be wide open this year. We'll start with my favorite to win the district in Pasadena Dobie. The Longhorns had a fantastic season, finishing 9-2 with the losses coming to two of the best teams in the entire state, Atascocita in district play and North Shore in round one of the playoffs. Dobie returns loads of talent from last year's squad with a total of 13 returning starters, including quarterback Cameron Gray, who threw for more than 900 yards and ran for another 400 in Dobie's run-heavy offense. He'll have his top target back as well in do-everything receiver Jeremiah Ballard, whose production figures to increase now that Gray has adjusted to varsity play. Last season was Gray's first as a starter as just a sophomore. Alex Garcia and Jonathan Baldwin returned to lead a defense that held every opponent not named North Shore or Atascocita under 30 points last season. Expect Dobie to be in the mix for a district title, certainly, and perhaps the favorite to win it as well. I see one other team as a legitimate threat to Dobie's district title chances, and that would be the Deer Park Deer. They too returned 13 starters, including quarterback Matt Potts, who threw for nearly 2,000 yards last season. Running back Dylan Madden returns next to Potts in the backfield as well, and those two will operate behind an offensive line that returns all 5 starters. That's quite the haul. In addition to that, Zach Frazee and Garrett Bedford returned to lead a seasoned defense that was tested weekly in a tough district last season. The Deer will need to replace talent at wide receiver, but they figure to be pretty good once again. I think the final 2 playoff spots behind Dobie and Deer Park will be a 3-way foot race, and I'll start with Pasadena Memorial, yet another team that returns 13 starters. Memorial just missed out on the playoffs a season ago with a 4-6 record, but I think they'll be squarely in the mix in 2020. Also like Dobie and Deer Park, Memorial will return its starting quarterback in Luke Giron, who threw for nearly 1,000 yards despite only starting 6 games last year. Xavier Lerma returns as well next to Giron in the backfield, and that duo will work behind a good offensive line led by Ivan Robles. The Mavericks defense returns more starters than nearly any other unit in the district with 8. Colby Taylor leads that unit after racking up 4 interceptions and more than 70 tackles last season. I don't know exactly where they'll fall, but I think Memorial wraps up a playoff spot this season. That leaves Channelview and South Houston as the 2 other teams I think will be in contention for a playoff spot, and I'll start with Channelview. The Falcons don't return 13 starters like the other 3, but they do return 11 starters, which isn't too shabby. The returning starters will be led by, you guessed it, a quarterback. Demetrius Charles had an excellent sophomore season, throwing for 1,300 yards and 20 scores, and he'll have some solid returning weapons outside with Charles Kirtley and Josiah Prince returning. The defense will be led by Sing-Q Marshall at linebacker, and I expect a solid season from Channelview after a 4-6 campaign last year. The final team I see in the playoff picture is South Houston. The Trojans have no shortage of weapons at wide receiver, but they're one of the only teams in the district who will have to figure out the quarterback position. Marquaylin Anthony and Kendarius White will lead the offense, and an experienced offensive line will help the quarterback transition. On defense, South Houston has playmakers at every level, including Jeffrey Gamboa on the line, Fidel Vizcaíno at linebacker, and Kaquan Palm in the secondary. The Trojans will have returning playmakers and will absolutely be in the playoff conversation, but the other 4 squads all return an established quarterback, and that's the reason I have South Houston as my first team out. Pasadena continues the trend of 22-6A teams that return massive amounts of talent, with a whopping 15 returning starters. That's good numbers, but the Eagles haven't made the playoffs in 24 years, and it'll take some luck to break that streak. The Eagles will have a spot to fill at quarterback, which is never easy, but a strong offensive line and wide receiver Keeman Hayward hold some promise for the offense if a decent option can be found under center. The defense will be led by Jose Ruiz at linebacker, and that unit returns 10 of 11 starters, which is never a bad thing. I don't see Pasadena making the playoffs, but they could be a big surprise if a good quarterback is found. Lastly, we have Pasadena Rayburn. Like seemingly half the district, Rayburn too returns 13 starters. Unfortunately, those starters haven't won a game yet, as Rayburn is on a 3-year winless streak. The 2020 seniors at Rayburn have seen their Texans go 0-30 in their time at school, but I think 2020 is the year Rayburn gets back in the win column. Returning quarterback Brian Aguirre is the biggest key. He's a 3-year starter, so he literally could not be more experienced. Aguirre has some solid weapons with Julian Falcon at running back and David Pena out wide, and that trio will operate behind an experienced offensive line. The defense employs Alexis Tellis and Jalen Samuels, which will help. I don't see Rayburn competing for a playoff spot, but 2020 could be the year the Texans get back on the board. I think they'll right the ship, and picking up 2 or 3 wins will be huge to build momentum for the future. That leaves me with my team and player to watch. First up, my team to watch is the Channelview Falcons. Channelview has a solid coach at the helm in Avarian Hertz and an envious amount of returning talent, though that could be said for most of the district if we're being honest. In any case, I like the Falcons to get back in the playoffs after missing out last season, but there will be challengers. The Falcons will need to win games against Memorial and South Houston to secure a spot. Look out for those games. My player to watch is Dobie quarterback Cameron Gray. The Longhorns have the tools necessary to win a district title, something that felt impossible in the past while sharing a district with state powerhouse Atascocita. Now with the Eagles gone, the reins are Dobie's to take, and they'll need Gray to have an outstanding year to fend off the competition. Gray accounted for 20 touchdowns last season with plenty of production through the air and on the ground. Now as a junior, I think those numbers will go up. Having a year's worth of varsity experience should mean Gray will know what to expect coming into this season. It'll be his first full varsity season without having to adjust to the skill level. Because of that, and everything on the line for Dobie this season, Cameron Gray is my player to watch. That's all I've got for 22-6A.